Hi, everyone. It's Carol here from Tapping Into Sleep, and we're going to do another amazing interview today. I contacted Maureen Herrera. She is a grief coach from Arizona. And as I was reading through her website, she has a pretty deep personal story with grief. And I believe this is how you came into this work, right, Maureen? So tell us a little bit about you and your story.
So glad to be here with you today. So my story is that my husband and my two sons went out to a Super Bowl party and they were killed on their way home by a drunk driver. And that is what persuaded me to move forward in this grief work, because I had no one to reach out to. And I really needed a lot of help. Yeah.
Yeah. And I always say, like, there's no better person to help you than someone who has experienced what you're trying to help them with. That's how I help people with sleep, because I went through no sleep and understand what it's like. And so for people who are grieving, because there's so many people that grieve out there, to have someone who not only understands them because they've been through it, but that can actually not just understand them, but help them process that grief, right? So
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Because I totally get it. I totally get the heartbreak, and I get the physiological effects that happen in the body. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So when people reach out to you, like what are they feeling? Like what do they say? Like what does that look like? People reaching out to you?
There a lot of them are just so heartbroken. And it's amazing that some of them are heartbroken for years before they reach out. Most of them are thinking that somewhere along the line, time is going to heal. And they find out it doesn't work. And they've been struggling for years with, brain fog and a lot of other things that are happening. And also they're not sleeping well and they're not taking good care of themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we really want to focus on, is how do we help grieving people sleep better? Because like, I'm sure it affects most people that are grieving, but like, what would you say the percentage of people not sleeping because they're grieving?
I would have to say roughly at least 85, 90%.
Yeah.
That's usually one of my first questions. Are you sleeping? And I hear no. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that
has a lot to do with the heaviness that's in their heart and not being able to work through it. It could happen even when you have an argument or a disagreement with somebody, and you're trying to sleep and, you're waking up and you're thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's just kind of like, let me know how you help people. Like, what does it look like, somebody working with you? How do you help them work through the grief, and how do you help them get back to sleep? Like all of that meshed in together. Like, what does that look like?
You know what? Let me tell you a little story. Like, let's say there's a woman who just lost her husband. Okay. And, let's say she's an executive and she's got a lot of responsibilities and a lot of deadlines. And she's basically pushing down her emotions all day long because she can't cry at work. Right.
Right.
So she's stuffing. And then she gets home from work and she's in an empty home, and it feels really sad and lonely. And all of these emotions that she's been stuffing surface, and she's going to try to go to sleep. And now she might dream about her loved one and wake up, and now she's crying, or she might reach out for him. He's not there. Same thing, same scenario. So one thing I like to tell my clients is to take some time during the day to take a break and ask yourself how you're feeling. How are you feeling right now? And try to work through that emotion and allow it to surface. Find the time, to work through it, because we can't keep having these these times where we just push it aside and then it just explodes on us, right?
Right, because if you keep pushing down, like that's a big part of my work too, not necessarily grief, but with sleep, like the stresses you have during the day, if you don't process them, they're gonna show up at night because your brain wants to process what happened.
Right. Exactly. And it does, those things don't dissipate because you're sleeping.
No.
Right?
No, because sleep, we're working through it. And what people don't really know sometimes is that sleep is actually an active state in your brain.
Yes.
Sleep, right? And so, if we've repressed all day, It's going to
Yeah.
come and show up at night.
Mhm.
So how do you help them process that grief? Like that's what I'm interested in. Like what would a how would you process that and how would you help them get over that so then their sleep can come back?
Well, like I said, what I'm working with right now is helping them to process during the day and
Mhm.
get in touch with their emotions so that it's not hitting them all at once. And I'm a firm believer of taking certain things that you might want to take, like that that our body needs, like magnesium. That helps the body to decompress and it helps the muscles to relax. So little things like that too can really help everybody get ready for sleep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things I like to tell people too is a bedtime routine. To me, that is such a big thing. I don't know in your work if you talk about that. Like, is there something that like in the evening that you do to prepare for sleep, or what does that look like? Because I'm trying to like picture my work and then picture your work, even though it's
Yeah.
different, it's similar. Um, how do you help them unwind at the end of the day?
Well, I think it's really essential to turn everything off at least an hour before you go into bed. And I'm talking
Yeah.
your TV, your cell phone. Don't look at emails on your computer. Turn off all electronic devices, and then find a nighttime routine that really works. So when I get up and I turn the TV off, my cat knows he's getting treats. Okay. And then he
Oh.
goes into my, yeah, he goes into my bedroom and he knows he's going to get brushed. And that's a really soothing time for both of
Mm.
us. That's my routine. I brush him. He enjoys it. I'm decompressing, right? He's getting ready to take a good long nap. And you have to find some kind of a routine, but turning the TV off and all that stuff and getting away from everything rather
Yeah.
than answering emails is just going to wake you up. And another thing is, if you do wake up, don't turn on your phone.
No.
It's not a good thing to do because that again wakes you up. So that's just not a good, yeah, that's not a good way. So bedtime routine is absolutely important. Also, what does your bedroom look like? When you
Yeah.
walk in there, is it calling at you? Is it saying, yes, come to sleep? And that doesn't have to be an expensive thing. That could be some throw pillows, that you want to put
Yeah.
on the bed or a nice bedspread or something like that. Something that's going to be inviting. I think the room needs to be inviting.
And I think the bed needs to be made because there was a study that I came across that walking into a bedroom that has clutter and the bed is not made
Yes.
actually causes anxiety. And
Hmm.
so I agree with what you're saying. Make your bedroom inviting and your bed
Yeah.
made, and it doesn't need to be a whole lot. It just needs to be calm. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And keep your cell phone in another room.
Yeah.
You don't
I
need it
agree
by
with
your
that one.
bedside. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And what kind of, I want to call it a tool or a process, do you help them deal with the emotion? Because the emotions with grief, like you said, they would be so heavy on the heart. So what kind of process can they do to help deal with that part of the grief?
Well, I think the program that I have helps them to do that. Each session that we have, they become, I would say, a little bit more healed. Their heart becomes a little bit more healed. And I know that
Mhm.
sort of by the end of the program, they're most likely sleeping a lot better. So
Cool.
that is the whole process, because it's not a quick fix, unfortunately. You know,
No, it would be nice, eh?
yeah, absolutely.
And so I'm interested now because you just said my program. So now I'm interested to know what the program is because you're right, it's not a quick fix. So it's not like somebody's going to contact you and they'll see you once.
Mhm.
But tell me a little bit more about this program that you've got.
Well, the grief recovery program is an evidence-based program that works, and it works quickly in 6 weeks. And it's basically designed to help the griever take the necessary steps and go through a series of exercises to help them heal their broken heart. So
Oh.
it's really an education because we were never taught at all. You know, we learn how to grieve from our peers, but is it the right way? You know, is it our way? And we learn in this
Right.
program that we've been carrying around grief probably since we were 4,
Mm.
and it has accumulated over time. So it turns out to be like this tea kettle. You know, if you put all the grief inside a tea kettle and you turn the heat on, it's going to whistle, it's going to
Oh,
explode,
yeah.
right? In steam, it's going to get hot, and we wait too long sometimes before we work through our grief. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is an education to understand where they are in their grief, where they're going to go, and how
Mm.
this is all a wonderful. It's a process of learning and growing and becoming empowered at the end.
Yeah. And I like that it's
Yeah.
evidence-based. Like that's big for me, like something that's evidence-based, because if there's a process and the process can be individualized for you as your grief,
Right.
because we all have different grief, right?
Mhm.
And now the question that's popping into my mind, because there's grief and then there's loss.
Mhm.
Because grief, I'll tell you what I think the difference is, and then you can
Okay.
correct me. I think that grief is when you've lost someone who has died in your family. I consider grief of the death of a family member or a friend or
Right.
whoever. But sometimes people say they're grieving the loss of their job, or they're grieving the
Mhm.
loss of something, but that's not a person. So am I on track or am I totally off track?
No, that's absolutely correct. I mean, you can
Okay.
grieve over the loss of a job. Maybe it was something that you
Mhm.
really loved, and for some reason you lost that position. You know,
Yeah.
you could be grieving over moving your parents into assisted living,
Right.
right? Because maybe they're in the house that you grew up in, and your job now is to downsize really like a
Right.
ton and help them move, and you're leaving behind all those memories and stuff. So it's not just the loss of a loved one.
Yeah, because loss, and like, so the example that comes into my mind too would be like you have your partner have Alzheimer's, and then so you're losing him while he's still alive. That's a type
Yeah.
of grief as well, right? It's, I don't know, I want
Yes.
to call it living grief if that's a term, but
Mhm.
not only are you losing them then, but you would lose them again at the end
Yeah.
of life. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And so if I'm
Retirement.
under retirement, yeah. So if I'm understanding your program, would your program only be for grieving the loss of a loved one, or would it be for any kind of grief or loss?
Yeah, I could work with any. I usually work with
Okay.
women, so it could be, but my specialty is working with widows.
Okay. So yeah,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
curious, because I was like, I'd send everybody to you. Like, if you lost something, go to Maureen, right? Because I believe when someone specializes in something, um, like I specialize in sleep for most people who can't sleep, and I know
Mhm.
so much little tidbits about sleep that if I was just an EFT practitioner that worked on everything, I wouldn't have the
Right.
specific knowledge I needed. And so it's important and good to know that you specialize with widows who have lost their
Mhm.
husbands. So that's good to know.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to share with us before we end this interview? Because I think
I,
your work is amazing.
oh, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's
yeah.
needed.
It's really needed, and I really love it because I get to watch this wonderful transformation happen, even though the client may not really understand. I can see it in them, you know.
Yeah.
And in the end they're
Yeah.
just like, wow, this was wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, and to have someone support you through your heartache
Yeah,
is probably the best thing that you can do for yourself. It's the best gift you can give yourself, to have someone hold you and support you while you're going through your pain.
absolutely, because just talking it out is so therapeutic to begin with. And I think it's really essential that you find somebody who's qualified, because talking to your
Yeah,
mother, it might be good, and talking to your it might be good, but if they're not really qualified, find somebody who
exactly.
is. Yeah.
Somebody who's qualified with an evidence-based approach, with
Hmm.
the right tools in each week, in each session as you're going through, to
Yeah.
actually get you the relief you need, not just being around people who don't understand you and that don't know how
Mhm.
to talk to you or that might be afraid to say something to
Right, right,
you
right.
or but truly getting the real help that you need. So that's
Mhm.
amazing.
Okay.
Cool. So
Yeah.
if people wanted to reach you and start working with you or just get more information, how would they reach you?
You can go to my website, maureenherrera.com,
Okay.
and
And we'll
connect
put
with
a
me
link in
there.
the comment as well. Yeah. So
Okay.
people can just go
Yeah.
there. And I was on her website earlier and she shares her story there and just different, there was blog posts and there was a bunch of information. So contact
Mhm.
Maureen if you need help getting you through your grief so that you can find your sleep again. But there's so much more than sleep. Like I asked Maureen here because I know grief and sleep go together, but grief goes with so many other things that Maureen can help you deal with and make you feel better.
Right.